Good morning or good afternoon. Ruby here from FNR Transport. It has been a while since I've done a video for you guys, huh? I know, I am so sorry. But I wanted to do a quick video. This is not going to take up too much of your guys' time. I just kind of wanted to show you guys a load that they have posted on Truck Stop. So as you guys know, I book all my loads for my driver on Truck Stop. I used to have DAT, but I've never had any luck with it. Maybe I needed to have expanded my membership with DAT, but nonetheless, what's on DAT is sometimes is pretty much what's on Truck Stop. So I did away with that, and I've booked literally all my loads through Truck Stop. Literally all my loads have been through Truck Stop, and we've done pretty good for ourselves, considering just one. I'm only using one application to book my loads. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So lately these rates have been lately these rates have been really bad. You'll get some good ones here and there if you're able to do partials. Like sometimes we'll do partials if it's willing and if we're in the right area. It's just kind of like a hit and miss. When my husband left from Dickinson to California, he picked up two partials, and I'll kind of show you guys the breakdown on how I calculate my two partials and how I figure out my rate per mile. So I know what I need to negotiate for to get more money from these brokers. Because what you see on the load board is pretty much sometimes it's the lowest rate that they have, that they're offering for that load. So there's always room to negotiate for more money. There's never not one time that I don't negotiate, even if they're paying good. I know I come off as greedy because I still negotiate for more money, and they're like, no. I'm like, okay, well, I just thought I'd try, it's just a habit. But I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you this load that I was talking about. So my driver is on his way to Nevada. He dropped off his loads in California. He's on his way to Nevada. So here's my screen. This is what I use to book my loads. Hopefully you guys are able to see it well enough. I'll go ahead and click on the load that I was referencing to. So he's going to drop off in Elko, and it was in Oakland. It is brutal. Like, it is tough to get out of there. And I knew going into Oakland when he left from vacation, when he picked up his load in South Dakota, I knew it was going to be tough in Oakland, because usually Oakland is always in that area. It's been really tough to get out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. So he's going to be in Elko, which, as you see here, it's only 31 miles away from where he's dropping off at. And you'll have all the information. They haven't booked it yet, and for a reason, but you'll have the pickup date, the last time it was updated, these loads. This is how I figure out when I book my loads. This is what I do. What I usually do most of the time is I'll go to the highest rate per mile, and I'll see where it's picking up and where it's dropping off. So in the Elko area, I have it. So I'll show you guys, edit my search. I have it listed for flatbed, step deck, or HOTSHOT, because a HOTSHOT load can go in either of these: flatbed, step deck. You want to be careful when they're advertised for step deck on the height, because sometimes they're needing a step deck because it's something that's like 9 feet tall or whatnot. We have a low profile flatbed HOTSHOT, so ours sit pretty much at the same height as a step deck. So you want to make sure your height is what your trailer is able to haul. So then I have my weight, which is, our max weight is 20,000 pounds. Our max length is 40. The pickup date that I have for today and for tomorrow. So today's June 9th. I'm looking for something for June 10th, but I have today open June 9th, just in case he's able to drop off on time today or early today. I'm not going to pressure him into getting it delivered today, because he's been working all this week. He's been getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's just because that's the hour that he left North Dakota to go pick up his load in South Dakota, because he had to be there by a certain time. So I have Elko, Nevada open, and a radius of 300 miles, around from where he's going to be dropping off at. And we're going anywhere. So it's showing me 31 loads. So we knew going into Elko, we're probably going to have the deadhead out of there, but we're hoping that something comes up so we don't have to. But like I said, there is a load there and they still have it there. With this brokerage, you have to be careful because they will lowball you. They will just, they will ask for a liver, you know, for you to take this load from them. So clearly you see it's for a hotshot picking up in Carlin, Nevada, 31 miles of deadhead from where he's dropping off in Elko, and it's going to Tacoma, Washington, which is close to Seattle. It's a total of 824 miles. They need a 40-foot flatbed hotshot, and the weight is, they have it here 19,000 pounds, but when I spoke to the gentleman, it's actually 20,000 pounds. They never put a rate on these the majority of the time because they want to see what's the rate that you're going to offer for this load, right? And so I called and I spoke to the gentleman and he told me, you know, and this is what I do because you make so many phone calls. I have my notepad and a pen ready, my little fuzzy pen. But I have my notepad ready and a pen because I like to jot down notes because you make so many phone calls, you forget. I tend to, because you know it's hard to keep up with what they're saying, and then so you don't have to have them repeat it. So this is my notes from that load. So it picks up, I always get the pickup time. It picks up from 8 to 4. It drops off on Monday because tomorrow he'll pick, if he were to have picked it up, it would have been a Friday. So he can deliver on a Monday. Delivery hours are from 7 to 2. There are 12 pallets of drilling mud. What that is, I don't know. Sometimes I'll go to Google and I'll search it up. So I always ask for the dimensions. What is the width, height, and length for each pallet? And sometimes, you know, like when he came from South Dakota to California, these pallets were able to sit side by side, you know, because they were only 3 feet wide, 3 point something wide. So he was able to sit pallets side by side and stack them. So I always ask for the dimensions. Definitely, you want to always make sure you get the dimensions. So these are pallets. Of course, it needs 40 feet of my flatbed, but instead of 19,000 pounds, he said it was 20,000 pounds. So I said, okay, so what is your guys' going rate for this? And granted, it's 824 miles, plus we're adding in our 31 miles of deadhead. So let me calculate that for you. So it's a total of 855 miles, but let's just say we'll just not even concentrate on the deadhead right now because we never present that to them. Oh, I have, you know, 60 miles of deadhead. They don't give 2 Fs. Like, honestly, they don't. That's not their problem. So 824 miles, when I asked him what was his going rate, he stated they're paying $1,500 for this load. Is there a red flag here? $1,500 for 824 miles, okay? This is how you figure out your rate per mile. I have my phone here, so I'm gonna show you. So you take the rate, 1,500, you divide it by the miles, which is 824. He's paying $1.82. Do you guys see that? $1.82, but we have deadhead. So what we do, 824 plus 31 miles, it's 855, 1,500 divided by 855. Our actual mileage will be 175 with deadhead for 40 feet, 20,000 pounds. Absolutely not, right? So what I did, I counter offered back and I said, okay, I can move that for you for 2,500. With my deadhead, it'll bring it down to 292. Okay, 40 feet, 20,000 pounds. That's what I stuck to. I will move this for you guys for 2,500. And he stated, oh, well, that's usually what I pay for a flatbed, a full truckload. Said, well, you're asking, we're hauling 20,000 pounds. We are going to need $2,500. That is usually what I get for that weight is $3 a mile. The load that my husband has from California into Nevada is $3 a mile. Yeah, because it's going into Nevada. So, you know, your market, you're going to have to figure out where your market is too. So in these markets, they don't pay well because they know people are out there wanting these loads and there's not too much freight. So you have to figure out where you're at. And I get it that we're in the Carlin, Nevada, in the middle of nowhere, and I'm still asking for a lot of money. Absolutely. I'd rather drive deadhead empty elsewhere than to take these loads and contribute to the mess that's going on now with these rates. I would rather take that loss of spending 100, 150 in fuel just to deadhead out of there to go somewhere else and pick up a load that's better paying. So the biggest town near us would be Salt Lake City, which is 229 miles, which Salt Lake is also another dead zone. It's been like a dead zone for a while now. It's hit and miss. I don't like really going to Salt Lake because you never know if you're going to get out of Salt Lake. So when the broker said 1,500 and I told him 25, he's like, well, the most I've paid is 1,800. Okay. So we're going to do it again. 1,800 divided by, you know, you want to do your deadhead. I'm just going to show you without deadhead. It's $2.18 without deadhead for 40 feet, 20,000 pounds. Why would you move it 20,000 pounds? It's telling you here on Truck Stop how much you're going to estimate what you're going to be paying for fuel. It's telling you, where does it? Oh, you're going to be anywhere $755 for fuel from Nevada all the way to Washington. That's, I mean, you take that away from your cost, 1,500, let's say $800 is what you're going to spend in fuel. Roughly, you might, you know, give or take a little bit more or less, but let's just say $800. So 1,500 minus 800, that's $700 to move that load, because you're spending almost half in your profit, half of your rate in fuel. Absolutely not. I mean, this company is, you got to be very careful with them, and you got to stick to your guns, because they will lowball you and they will suck you dry if you allow them to. So then he told me I can do it for 1,800. And I said, absolutely not. We can move that load for you if you need it to be moved at 2,500. And so of course he's like, no, well, I appreciate you calling. I'm like, absolutely. You have a fantastic day. And we hang up. But this is what the rates are right now. This is what they're doing. This is what they've been doing for a while, you know, especially that brokerage. You got to be very careful with them, because they'll never post a rate. And because they want to, it's like a betting game for them, you know, they want to see who comes in the lowest and they'll go with that person. So you got to go high when you're negotiating on these rates, because they're going to try to counter offer back and then, you know, drop it down $100, $200, and you'll make that determination on whether or not you want to take that load. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys, as I was mentioning, I'm going to show you guys how I calculated my partials from North Dakota to South Dakota to California, and I'm going to break it down to you guys, my rate per mile, and then the cost that I got paid. That's just advising. My arm's itchy. That's just advising me of a new load every time the horn goes off. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen of my Google Maps. This is what I use when I figure out my mileage and my rate per miles. I go into my Google Maps, as you guys haven't seen. So I have 3 computer screens. I have one for my Keep Trucking. I have my main one for my load board, and then I have another one for my Google Maps. And it's so handy. I really love my setup. Because I'm able just to kind of, you know, go back and forth, and I'm not using just one computer screen. So this is really handy for me, and I love it. Makes my job a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So we are now currently on Google Maps, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys where our load that my husband picked up leaving North Dakota going into Oakland, California. So we picked up in Dickinson, North Dakota. And we left from here. We went to pick up our first load in Rapid City, South Dakota. That load there was paying really well going into California. So even if we were to have just done that, it wouldn't have been too bad going into California. But we still had plenty of room on our trailer. So there were pallets, and a lot of these pallets were side by side. So we were able to, you know, fulfill that load and then still pick up another partial en route to California. So luckily for me, I found something actually going into California, and I'll share that with you guys. So this is where we started. And so usually what I do when my husband picks up, I'll follow him. I'll figure out what route he's taking. And I have my Keep Trucking, which was once called Keep Trucking, but now it's Go Motive. So I have it where I can see his location, and I'll show that with you guys. So I'll show you how it looks like if I'm able to share that screen once I'm done here. So usually in Wyoming, when I was following him in Wyoming, I wasn't able to find nothing for him, but I knew I'd have better luck in Salt Lake City finding him something going into California. Like I said, Salt Lake City is a hit and miss. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. And so, but luckily for me, I found a load picking up in Sandy, Utah. So from Rapid City, he continued the next day, he picked up in Sandy, Utah. It was 2 conveyors going into Berkeley, which Berkeley and Oakland is only less than 15 miles away. So this was perfect. This was a perfect partial to pick up because he was literally within 15 miles of a difference from his original stop. So then we picked up in Sandy, Utah. He delivered the first one in Berkeley, California, and then he delivered in Oakland, California. Okay. And so my total miles for including my deadhead from Dickinson to Rapid City, South Dakota, that's like, I think about a 4-hour drive. So he left the house like about three-ish in the morning. We were up early that day. I made him his coffee, made sure he wasn't forgetting anything, his clothes that, we needed to make sure they were still drying because we had went camping those days before him leaving. So there was, it was early in the morning that he left, and he's been on that schedule every single day since he left. So poor guy, he's tired right now because he's been up at 3 o'clock every single day around that time to get on the road, because that's just when his electronic logbook was open for him to drive. Electronic logbook. There we go. So, but anyways, he picked up a second partial, those 2 conveyors in Sandy, Utah. We dropped off the first one in Berkeley, and then, the second one in Oakland. And I'm going to share with you. So the first one that we picked up was paying us $4,500. And so, like I said, it was paying really good going into Oakland. So it was $4,500 for that first one. And the second one from Sandy to Berkeley, it was only, I think, 4,000, 5,000 pounds. It was a small partial, but it was still paying over $1. So that one was paying $900. So 4,500 plus 900. So we had a total of 5,400 going into Oakland, California. So remember, we take the total cost of the total rate. We're going to divide it by our total miles, including deadhead, which is 1,639. So our total rate per mile with deadhead is $329. That was really good. Now, if it wasn't for the deadhead, let's just take away where we had to drive to pick up that load. So 5,400 divided by 1418, that would have been 380. That's what those 2 parcels paid, 380. But because we had deadhead going to South Dakota, we have to calculate that into our rate per mile to figure out what our total rate per mile is. So that's where we get 380 without deadhead, down to 329 with deadhead, going into California with 2 partials. And we weren't even hauling our max 20,000 pounds. I think we were at 15,000 pounds for the 2 loads, which is actually pretty good. So he did really good on fuel going into California. We were sitting at $3.29 for our rate per mile, paying 5,400. He delivered Wednesday. And then the one from Oakland that he picked up a container from Oakland going into Elko, Nevada. That one was paying $3. So this week was pretty good. We're about so far at 7,000, a little less than 7,000. So we still have today and tomorrow to find him something so he can continue with the week. So this week's going to be pretty good. But that's how I calculate my partial. So just make sure you guys always count your deadhead, because most people don't. And when we speak to people, they don't count their deadhead. I'm like, how do you not? That's not even an accurate rate per mile then, without deadhead. And some people drive hours deadheading to pick up a load. I'm like, that's insane. That's a lot of deadhead. We drive deadhead to get out of our hometown because we always have to the majority of the time. Sometimes we'll be lucky and we'll pick up a load near us, but it's not too often. So that's just the way it is because of where we live. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. So that's how I figured out my rate per mile for my partials. And if I had another partial, I would do the same thing. I would add that into my pickup and drop off, and to get my total mileage, and then figure out the rate divided by the miles, and that is your rate per mile. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. But that was our load from North Dakota going into California. So I'm going to go ahead and just end this here. And